Ever find yourself wondering if your daily quest for the perfect avocado toast is actually contributing to a larger?
Or maybe if your retirement strategy is more about hoping for the best than having a really solid plan.
Exactly. Those are the kinds of vital questions we're digging into today. Welcome to Get Die. Today, we're taking a fascinating look at a whole collection of information that really caught our eye.
Yeah, and it's all thanks to the May 15th, 2025 edition of the news aggregator podcast, Consumers.app.
Right. Think of that podcast as a super efficient curator pulling together the headlines and, the consumer research that's shaping our world right now.
So we've sifted through all of that, pulled out the nuggets we thought were most relevant for you.
Whether you're focused on maximizing your health span, maybe securing your financial future, or just trying to make sense of the trends around us.
Our mission today is basically to unpack these insights and really understand what they might mean for your life.
Okay, let's get into it then. We're starting with something pretty fundamental: how to live a longer and healthier life.
Yeah, Consumers.app highlighted an article from Insider. It was about a doctor who runs a longevity clinic, shared his simple 5-step morning routine.
Right, and that immediately got us thinking, about the underlying science. What's actually behind longevity.
Absolutely. And looking at the consumers' research data from that same day, May 15th, we find some really foundational points.
Okay.
Their first question looked at the most scientifically supported factors. What contributes to human longevity?
And what did they find?
Well, it points to a combination of things. Genetics obviously plays a part.
Sure.
But also the crucial roles of balanced nutrition, regular physical activity, effective stress management, and strong social connections.
So the usual suspects, but still important.
Exactly. But what's really striking is how much our daily actions can essentially sort of rewrite our genetic predispositions.
Really? So it's not all set in stone?
Not at all. Genetics gives you a baseline, sure, but consistent, healthy habits can significantly influence your potential lifespan. It's less like a fixed destiny,
Right.
and more like an ongoing negotiation with your biology day by day.
A negotiation with biology. I like that.
Yeah.
So for you listening, it prompts the question: are you actively prioritizing these core elements in your daily life?
Yeah. And it seems like these longevity clinics, like the one in the Insider article, are putting the science into practice with these very intentional morning routines.
Okay, so consumers research asks how the concept of a morning routine, as practiced in these clinics, actually aligns with the latest findings in longevity science.
And what's interesting is how well they line up. There's a real convergence.
How so?
Well, these clinics often emphasize starting the day with hydration, just water, some form of light exercise to get the body moving,
Okay.
mindfulness or meditation for mental clarity, a balanced, nutritious breakfast, and exposure to natural light.
Natural light, that was interesting. Why is that so important?
That last one is actually key because natural light helps regulate our circadian rhythms.
Our internal body clock.
Exactly. That's our internal 24-hour clock governing sleep-wake cycles, hormone release, all sorts of vital bodily processes.
Got it.
So when we connect these routine elements, hydration, light exercise, mindfulness, good food, light, to the broader science,
Yeah.
we see they directly support things like metabolic function, mental clarity, both crucial for long-term health.
Right. So it makes you wonder, could incorporating some of these elements into your own morning make a real difference in the long run?
That's the question, isn't it? It definitely makes you consider your own habits.
It does. Now, another way we can get a clearer picture of our habits is through, lifestyle monitoring. Consumers research asked about the impact of this, like visual life logging.
Yeah. This is where technology offers some really intriguing possibilities. Consumers research pointed to a 2020 study that looked at data from wearable cameras, basically a continuous visual record of someone's daily activities.
Wow, like a first-person movie of your life.
Sort of, and the findings were quite insightful. It suggested this kind of continuous monitoring can indeed identify unhealthy patterns.
Patterns we might not even notice ourselves.
Exactly, things we might not be aware of. And this objective data can then be used to guide interventions, to foster healthier lifestyles.
Which, as we've said, are tied to living longer.
Precisely. So for you, the listener, maybe it's worth asking, would having a more objective record of your day, maybe something simpler like tracking steps or sleep, offer valuable insights?
Like having a data-driven mirror reflecting your choices.
A very honest mirror, yes.
And those daily choices, as consumers research also investigated, have a very direct influence on our risk of chronic diseases as we age.
Absolutely. They specifically asked how lifestyle choices, morning routines, diet impact the risk of those age-related chronic diseases.
And the verdict.
Pretty definitive. Consistently making healthy choices has a really profound protective effect.
How does that work mechanistically?
Well, by helping stabilize blood sugars, keep cholesterol in check, reducing inflammation throughout the body.
All key drivers of major diseases.
Right. Things like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, certain cancers. We significantly lower our risk by managing those factors.
So it brings us back to that fundamental question again.
Mm-hmm.
Are your current daily habits setting you up for a healthier future? Or are there maybe some adjustments to consider?
It feels like an ongoing process, doesn't it? Self-assessment.
It really does. And with all this talk about living longer, you naturally wonder if there are any shortcuts, any magic formulas.
The magic bullet question. Consumers Research addressed this, asked if any longevity myths have been debunked by modern science.
Now, any secrets revealed or debunked?
Mostly debunked, I'm afraid. What's really interesting is the consistent message from the scientific community. There just aren't any magic bullets.
No secret rituals or miracle supplements?
Nope. That idea has been thoroughly debunked. While genetics plays a role, the overwhelming evidence points to a holistic approach, a consistent combination of multiple healthy behaviors. Diet, exercise, stress, sleep, social ties the whole package.
Right.
And Consumers Research also highlighted that these claims of people living way beyond 130, well, they often lack credible, verifiable documentation.
So stick to the evidence-based stuff.
Exactly. Focus on evidence-based practices, not chasing unproven claims or quick fixes.
It's the consistent, maybe less glamorous lifestyle changes that truly matter, not some mythical elixir.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and turn our attention to the financial side of living longer.
Yes, the other side of the coin.
Consumers.app highlighted a report from HousingWire with a, frankly, rather sobering headline. Americans are living longer, but they aren't prepared for retirement impacts.
That is a serious consideration.
It really is. And Consumers Research dug into the main risks to American financial security as life expectancy goes up.
They did. They identified 3 major threats. First, the risk of just plain outliving your savings.
Running out of money.
Right. Second, the gradual erosion of purchasing power because of inflation.
Things just get more expensive over time.
Yep. Your $20 today buys less next year. And third, the ever-increasing costs of healthcare, especially in later life.
Okay, those are big ones. What about retirement systems? 401ks, IRAs?
Well, the U.S. system with 401ks, IRAs, some traditional pensions still around, offers valuable tax advantages. That's good. But it relies heavily on individual contributions and investment decisions. And the data suggests many people might not be saving enough or maybe not fully appreciating just how long they might live.
So it puts the onus on the individual.
Very much so, which leads to a critical question for you, the listener. Are you truly confident that your current retirement plan properly accounts for the very real possibility of living, significantly longer?
It's a risk many of us might be underestimating. And speaking of that specific risk, longevity risk, Consumers Research specifically asked how that impacts defined contribution pension schemes like 401k.
Right, this is a really interesting area. Recent academic research really emphasizes that longevity risk, basically the uncertainty of how long retirees will actually live, poses a significant challenge to the sustainability of these defined contribution plans.
Because the payout isn't guaranteed for life like some older pensions.
Exactly. Unlike old defined benefit plans where the company promised a set amount, these plans depend on what you contribute, maybe what your employer adds, and crucially, how those involvements perform over decades.
So how do you manage that uncertainty?
Well, the research suggests using things called mortality-linked securities, like longevity bonds.
Longevity bonds. How do they work?
It's intriguing. They're financial instruments specifically designed to hedge against the financial risk of people living longer than expected. They can potentially provide a more secure income stream for retirees.
So the financial world is adapting to longer lifespans.
It's trying to. It signals a really interesting evolution in financial thinking, acknowledging that living longer isn't just personal, it's a systemic economic factor too.
Okay. Now, a cornerstone of the U.S. system is Social Security. What did Consumers Research say about its role and limitations as we live longer?
Yeah, they correctly point out that Social Security provides a foundational income layer for most retirees. It's a crucial safety net.
But it's not meant to be everything, right?
Exactly. It was never intended to be the sole source of retirement income.
Yeah.
And with rising life expectancy, increasing costs, the income it provides might simply not be enough to cover a much longer retirement.
So relying solely on Social Security is risky.
Potentially very risky. It prompts a really important question for you. Are you perhaps relying too heavily on Social Security for your retirement funding without a solid plan for other income sources?
It's a good reminder that diversification, even in retirement income, seems essential.
Absolutely.
And looking at current trends, Consumers Research also examined how U.S. retirement savings have shifted recently, say, in the last 5 years, and the challenges people face.
The trend is quite clear. A big shift away from those traditional defined benefit pensions where employers took the risk.
Right.
Towards defined contribution plans like 401k, which place the risk and the responsibility squarely on the individual.
And are people saving enough in those?
Unfortunately, the data suggests many Americans are not saving enough. This leads to a widening gap between what people will likely need in retirement and what they actually saved.
Especially with longer lifespans factored in.
Exactly. Increased longevity, market uncertainties, healthcare costs, it all widens that gap. This trend really just underscores the urgency of taking a proactive, consistent approach to retirement planning.
You can't really put it off.
No, not really.
Okay, so that sense of urgency definitely resonates. Now, one potential strategy for managing these financial uncertainties in retirement comes in the form of structured income plans.
Yes.
Consumers.app featured an article from USA Today where someone named Jim Sloan discussed how these plans can offer retirees confidence even when markets are volatile.
Right, and Consumers Research followed up, asking exactly what these structured income plans are and how they provide that confidence.
So what are they?
Essentially, they're financial products designed specifically to generate a predictable income stream for retirees.
How do they do that?
They often use a mix of different investments, things like annuities, bonds. The key advantage is they help mitigate the impact of market ups and downs.
So more stable income.
Exactly. More stable, consistent income, regardless of whether the stock market is booming or tanking. And that predictability can be a huge source of reassurance for retirees.
Helps them manage expenses, maintain their lifestyle.
Right, even during economic downturns. So for you, as you think about retirement, could a structured income plan offer a greater sense of financial security? It's worth considering.
It sounds like it could provide a more stable foundation.
Yeah.
How do they compare, though, to the traditional pension models we talked about? Defined benefit, defined contribution.
Good question. Consumers Research looked into those distinctions.
Oh.
Well, the comparison is pretty informative. Traditional defined benefit plans, the old-style pensions, they offer that guaranteed income based on salary, years worked, with the employer taking the investment risk.
Okay. Defined contribution, like 401ks. Shift that risk to you, the individual.
Right.
Structured income plans aim for predictable income, which is good, but the guarantees can vary. They depend on the underlying investments and, importantly, the financial strength of the company offering the plan.
So not always the same level of guarantee as an old pension.
Not always. They generally aim for more security than just relying on your own market investments, but the risk profile is different. It's something you need to understand. Understanding those nuances is so important for making informed decisions. Okay, now, for people already in retirement, how do they make sure their plans are still on track, especially with potentially longer lives ahead?
Yeah, that's crucial.
Consumers.app highlighted a piece from Money Week about doing a mid-retirement MOT.
An MOT, like for your car.
Exactly, a mid-retirement checkup. Consumers Research defined it as a comprehensive review of your finances, your health, your lifestyle after you've already retired.
And why is that considered important?
Because it helps ensure your savings and income will actually last throughout your retirement, however long that might be.
So it's about making adjustments along the way.
Precisely. By regularly reviewing your financial health, your spending, how quickly you're drawing down funds, you can proactively adjust your plans, address potential risks.
Like the risk of outliving your savings.
Exactly that one. So if you're already retired, maybe ask yourself, have you thought about giving your retirement plan a mid-retirement MOT?
It's like that regular service for your car, but for your retirement finances. Keep things running smoothly.
Good analogy. And what are the key areas someone should look at during this review? Consumers Research gave some specifics.
Yeah, the key financial areas include really looking closely at all your current income sources, pensions, investments, everything.
Right.
Compare that against your actual spending habits. Are they aligned?
Makes sense.
Also crucial, reassess your investment portfolio. Is your risk level still appropriate for your age and situation?
Right, that might change over time.
Definitely. And check your withdrawal rates. Are you spending too quickly? That's vital.
What else?
Think about potential future health care or long-term care costs. Make sure legal documents like wills and power of attorney are up to date.
And maybe get some professional help.
Absolutely. Consider seeking guidance from a qualified financial advisor. Plus, using budgeting tools, retirement calculators can be really helpful too.
It's about being proactive throughout retirement, not just before it starts.
Exactly. And a major factor in all this, as we keep saying, is that longevity risk, living longer than planned. Consumers Research specifically asked about its role in this mid-retirement planning.
And what's the connection?
Longevity risk is absolutely central to this mid-retirement review. Consumers Research pointed out that research keeps suggesting things like those mortality-linked securities, longevity bonds.
Right, we mentioned those.
As ways to manage this risk within pension schemes. Also, just optimizing your asset mix, finding the right balance between growth and stability becomes even more important later in retirement.
So it reinforces that planning for a long retirement isn't a one-time thing.
Not at all. It needs ongoing review and adjustment. It's a marathon, not a sprint, even after you've stopped working.
That really drives the point home. And what happens if retirees don't do these mid-retirement reviews? What are the potential downsides?
Consumers Research looked into that too. The potential consequences of skipping these checkups are pretty significant. While the most obvious is depleting savings too early, running out of money.
Yeah.
Also, potentially missing opportunities to optimize withdrawals, maybe save on taxes, and being caught off guard by unexpected costs, especially healthcare.
And market risk.
Failing to adjust your investment risk as you age could leave you more vulnerable to downturns or just the slow creep of inflation eating away at your savings.
So it leads to a really practical question for you listening.
Yeah.
What concrete steps are you taking or planning to take to make sure your retirement funds last as long as you need them?
Some really important things to consider there.
Definitely. So what are some of the practical steps advisors recommend for actually doing a mid-retirement MOT?
Right.
Consumers Research had some helpful guidance.
Yeah. Leading advisors generally recommend several key steps. First, thoroughly review all your current income streams.
Okay.
Then compare them against your actual spending patterns. See how they line up.
Got it.
Next, reassess your investment portfolio and your personal tolerance for risk that might change.
Check withdrawal rates again.
Absolutely. Examine your pension withdrawal rates carefully. Make sure you're not overspending.
And future costs, legal docs.
Yes. Consider potential future health care or long-term care expenses. Make sure important legal documents, will, power of attorney, are current.
And professional advice.
And definitely consider seeking personalized guidance from a qualified financial advisor. They can offer tailored advice for your specific situation. Using budgeting tools, calculators also helps get a clear picture.
That's a very actionable list. Okay, let's shift focus again. Another really important aspect of well-being, access to necessary medications.
Right. Crucial.
Consumers.app featured an article from U.S. News and World Report titled, Opening the Door to a Broader Pharmacy Future, which brings up managed care pharmacy.
Exactly. And Consumers Research asks the fundamental question. What exactly is managed care pharmacy, and how does it impact how Americans get their medications?
So what's the answer?
In essence, it's a system that integrates pharmacy practice with broader healthcare management strategies.
What's the goal?
The main goal is to ensure patients get the necessary meds while also trying to control costs for employers, insurers, the whole system.
Okay. And how does it influence things for patients?
It significantly influences which specific drugs are covered by insurance, the formulary, how doctors might be encouraged to prescribe, and the processes patients go through to get prescriptions filled, like prior authorizations.
So it has a real impact.
A very real impact. So for you, the listener, have you ever consciously thought about how managed care pharmacy might be affecting your own access to medications?
It's often behind the scenes, isn't it? But powerful. And what are the big challenges in trying to balance cost effectiveness with making sure patients can actually get the drugs they need? Consumers Research looked at this tension.
Yeah, this is a really critical balancing act. The pressure to control rising drug costs can sometimes conflict directly with the goal of ensuring all patients get the meds their doctors think are best.
Like with formularies.
Exactly. Formularies, those lists of covered drugs, might exclude certain higher cost options, even if a doctor prefers them for a specific patient.
And prior authorizations.
Same issue there. Prior authorization needing insurance approval before prescribing is meant to ensure appropriate use, but it can sometimes create frustrating, even harmful delays for patients needing treatment.
So it's a constant struggle.
It really is. Ensuring equitable access for everyone while managing the overall economic burden is a huge ongoing challenge in managed care pharmacy.
It highlights the complexities in our healthcare system. Okay, let's look towards the future now. The increasing role of artificial intelligence in healthcare.
AI, a hot topic.
Consumers.app highlighted a Forbes article arguing healthcare needs to ditch traditional search and embrace AI-driven engagement with patients.
This is a truly transformative area, potentially reshaping how we interact with healthcare completely. Consumers Research asked how AI is fundamentally changing patient engagement and access compared to, say, just Googling symptoms.
And what's the key difference?
Personalization and dynamism. AI can provide much more tailored, responsive experiences.
How so?
Potential for faster, more accurate diagnostics, developing highly individualized treatment plans, even real-time monitoring of your condition. Something static websites just can't do.
Streamlining things, too.
Yes, by streamlining processes, automating routine tasks, AI could significantly enhance access and empower patients with more immediate, relevant health insights.
So imagine a future where navigating healthcare is simpler, more personalized, thanks to AI.
That's the promise. It certainly sounds like a promising direction.
And Consumers Research also highlighted a specific practical example, the PRECISE framework. How is that using AI to help patients understand complex radiology reports?
Yeah, this is a fantastic, tangible example. PRECISE uses the very powerful GPT-4 AI model to essentially translate dense, jargon-filled radiology reports into plain, everyday language, aiming for about a 6th grade reading level.
Does it work?
A recent study showed it significantly improved readability, perceived reliability, and most importantly, actual patient comprehension of these critical reports.
So it makes complex medical info accessible.
Exactly. It fosters patient-centered care, helps people make more informed decisions about their own health. A really compelling illustration of AI making complex stuff understandable.
Definitely a big step towards patient empowerment. Okay, let's shift gears one last time. Something affecting all of us and the planet. Plastic waste.
Yes, the ever-present plastic problem.
Consumers.app featured a USA Today article highlighting new packaging innovations aimed at reducing toxic plastic waste.
This is such a pressing environmental challenge. Consumers Research asked about the sheer scale of plastic pollution just from consumer packaging.
And the scale is?
Staggering. Truly staggering. We're talking hundreds of millions of tons of plastic produced globally every year.
And most of it ends up where?
The vast majority, unfortunately, ends up in landfills or polluting the environment, oceans, rivers, land.
It really underscores the urgency, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. For you listening, considering the scale really highlights why tackling plastic waste is so critical for the planet's health.
Absolutely. And in response, we're seeing some innovative business models emerge, right? Consumers Research highlighted an example in retail.
Yes, a particularly interesting one is PT Cyclist Refill Indonesia. Since 2020, they've been running a refill-based model in Jakarta.
For everyday products.
For everyday household necessities. Directly tackling single-use plastic packaging. They've faced regulatory hurdles, apparently, but they've reached a significant number of customers already.
Using design thinking to refine their approach.
Exactly. It showcases a real-world, on-the-ground effort to fundamentally shift away from single-use packaging. It's encouraging to see these initiatives gain traction.
Definitely encouraging. And what about us as individuals? What practical steps can we take to reduce plastic waste from packaging? Consumers Research had suggestions.
Yeah, several really practical steps we can all consider. As consumers, we can actively choose products with minimal or easily recyclable packaging.
Okay.
We can consciously support refill and reuse programs when they're available.
Like the one in Jakarta.
Right. And ensure we're properly sorting our waste for recycling. That makes a difference.
Same companies.
On the corporate side, the focus needs to be on investing in R&D for sustainable packaging alternatives, embracing circular models, reduce, reuse, recycle.
So it leads to a personal question for you. What small but meaningful changes can you realistically make in your daily routine to reduce your plastic footprint?
Every little bit helps, it seems.
It really does seem that way. Finally, let's just touch on the design of that packaging itself and the crucial role it plays in keeping us safe.
Safety. Very important.
Consumers.app pointed us to an article on Packaging Gateway via MSN.com, focusing on packaging design and consumer safety.
This is fundamental, something we often take for granted until there's a problem. Consumers research asked about the primary role of packaging design and safety, especially for food.
And what is that role?
Protection. It's about creating a barrier, shielding the product from chemical, biological, physical alterations, keeping it safe to use or eat.
Especially for food.
Right. Preventing contamination by harmful microbes, preventing spoilage, extending shelf life to reduce waste, all while meeting safety regulations.
We really rely on it, don't we?
We implicitly trust that packaging is doing its job every day.
It's a silent guardian, in a way. And for vulnerable groups, like kids, there are specific rules, right? Child-resistant packaging.
Yes, regulations mandate child-resistant packaging for potentially hazardous products, meds, some chemicals.
But consumers' research noted limitations.
Right. Regulatory agencies are clear. It's child-resistant, not child-proof.
Important distinction.
Very. It's an extra layer of protection, but should always be used with other safety measures, like storing things out of reach. It's the last line of defense, not the main one.
So, multiple layers of safety. And when we're shopping, how much does packaging influence us? Consumers research shared findings about meat products.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Recent research on American consumers buying beef found that after price, safety-related things were key.
Like what?
Like seeing recognizable certification logos and the specific type of packaging used. These strongly influenced what people bought.
So consumers value visible signs of safety and quality.
Significantly, yes. Which begs the question for you. How consciously does packaging influence your own purchasing choices, especially for food safety and quality?
Definitely something worth considering more consciously.
Right.
Wow, that was a truly comprehensive deep dive. Thank you for exploring this wealth of information from the May 15th, 2025 edition of Consumers.app with us.
It's been fascinating, hasn't it? Connecting these seemingly separate themes from, the science of longevity and planning for longer retirement to navigating healthcare access and making smarter choices about sustainability and safety.
And on that note, considering all these interconnected factors we've discussed today, and maybe tweaking your morning routine based on longevity research to really scrutinizing your retirement plan for longer lifespans and the huge impact of our consumer habits. What single area being most compelling or maybe most pressing for you to explore further and perhaps take action on in your own life?